Well, happy Thanksgiving and Iron Bowl week, everybody. It's the final week of the college football regular season, and Auburn in a much different situation as we maybe thought they were going to be a week ago going into the Texas A&M game as the Tigers pull off a huge upset victory over the Aggies there at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Cole Cubelic, Simone Eli joining you to talk that big upset win for Hugh Freeze and company and look ahead to Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Let's go ahead. Welcome in, everybody. Cole and Simone, excited to be chatting with you this week as the Auburn Tigers come off a huge 4-overtime victory against Texas A&M. Cole, before we talk about the Iron Bowl and bowl berth and all these things that didn't exist a week ago, really, the Iron Bowl existed, but the bowl berth, I guess we should say, man, what did you think about that game and just how exciting really was that from a viewer's perspective and from, of course, an alum as well?
Just a gutsy performance and impressive performance. Not so much from what actually happened in the game, the X's and O's, guys making plays, but I think more, Simone, at the end of the game, this team has found ways to lose so many times this year. And we actually talked about how good they are at finding different ways to lose games. And you showed growth. You show that you're a team that, one, hasn't quit. Hugh Freeze still has his team motivated, has his team wanting to play, wanting to go out there and put good film on and play good football. And then that you have found ways to not screw games up late and actually win those games. Did you benefit from a ball that hit a guy in the face mask? Sure, whatever. You'll take it at this point because you just need wins. You need good mojo. And I think you saw the fans' reaction and the players' reaction after that game exactly how much it meant. You could say, well, it's a team that doesn't deserve to be in the top 25, or it doesn't mean much for you as far as postseason. Auburn does have a chance now to continue to stay and go bowling. But I just think as far as finding a win, needing a win, the reaction from everybody involved in that stadium, the players, how they acted after that game, it showed you just how important it was to go out and win a football game. It's a former division rival. It's a team that you haven't had a ton of success against at home historically. And it was a team that was actually ranked and you weren't. So there were a lot of reasons that it was a big win, but more so just the fact that Auburn needed that, wanted that, had to have that. That's what all that reaction came from, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that everyone just took a collective just exhale and then sprinted on the field after that ball was incomplete because it was thrown really well, no doubt. Didn't really know how that was going to end up. And I felt like when you saw Auburn climb to a 21-point lead, all I had was you in the back of my mind saying, like, okay, like, don't count chickens before the hatch. And the next thing you know, the game is tied. I'm mad. I'm like, it's close or whatever. It was tied. I'm like, this is not fun. This is not fun anymore. Auburn's going to Auburn, all this crap, people on social media. And, just the heart in me that is there for Auburn and the magic of Jordan-Hare Stadium. I'm just like sitting there wishing this game to end up in favor of the Tigers. And then when you saw that reaction, man, that was really special. And I think that going into now the Iron Bowl, you saw just maybe a little bit of a more refreshed Hugh Freeze. I think he still is keeping things in perspective. I think it's been a long year. I don't think he was like as maybe joyful as we've seen him throughout his career after big victories, but I think he's trying to stay mostly level-headed. What did you think about his press conference on Monday and the confidence of this team? We'll get to the player perspective and maybe some of the trash talking that took place going into the Iron Bowl, which makes it great. But what did you think about Hugh Freeze and his demeanor post-game and then what he had to say on Monday as well?
I think you saw a lot of relief more than anything else. Just a guy that has wanted a win like this, thought he's been close to multiple wins like this, and then finally got one. I actually think fast forwarding to the players, it has a lot to do with Hugh Freeze. To me, to let a couple of freshmen talk to the media the week of this game about this game, that shows me he's got some confidence in his team right now.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're shutting things down. Only the veterans that have been around it, that get it, that understand it, that are going to be safe in front of a camera. You kind of want to be tight. You want to be close-knit. But that might be Hugh Freeze saying, let it rip. I feel pretty good about this. Go do what you got to do. I feel like we're going to have a good plan, and I feel like we're going to be able to put good things together to be competitive in this game. So that showed me a little extra confidence from Hugh Freeze. It's a weird way to find it and see it, but that's kind of one of the first things that came into my mind. Now, what they actually said, first and foremost, I don't really care. I'll tell you something, I don't believe in bulletin board material. I don't think it's a real thing. If you need someone else to say something mean about you to be a good football player, you're not going to be a good football player very often.
I love your
you're just not. Now, what it could do is it could force guys to be a little more hyper-focused where they may be concentrating on other things or not putting as much into the film as they need to. And now all of a sudden they say, you know what? I'm about to get this dude. And they're watching film all day, or they're in the facility, or they're looking for extra tendencies. You don't want to remotivate people that way.
Yeah.
But to all of a sudden think that somebody's going to show up as an average football player, you said you didn't like their mom, and now they're an excellent football player. That's just not real. It's not a real thing. And sometimes, too, there are guys that it holds you a little bit more accountable as someone who opens your mouth. And now you better go out there and play a good game. And DeMarcus Riddick better and Cam Coleman better. And the Cam Coleman part of this, like Greg McElroy gave me a different perspective this morning. I kind of thought, like, why are we talking about a revenge tour? We've never played Alabama. Like, he's never been in this game before. Like, what do you mean revenge tour? But Greg kind of turned it around. He's like, well, I think he's referencing his teammates and what happened last year and trying to get revenge for that. And if that's the case, then I think that's great, because that shows more unity from your team. That shows that you want to go get something done for other people and not just for yourself. And we know we are in a very selfish era of college football right now. And if that's where Cam Coleman was going with that, then I think it's great. And we always want these guys to be honest. We always want to know what's on their mind. We always want to hear their personalities. And every time they do, we just immediately get mad. I mean, social media was on fire tearing these kids down yesterday. When based on what we want, and for people like you and I, what we need for our jobs, we should be celebrating that, to be perfectly honest with you. We should be happy that it happens. When I saw it, I was filming with Roman Harper last night doing Read and React, and somebody showed it to us, and I just smiled, and Roman just looked at me, and I was like, this is great for what I do. Like, we'll open up the phones tomorrow, and people have a lot to say about it. So good. Like, I hope we get more of it. I'll just say this. A lot of people are mad at it. I left listening to those comments more confused because, one, you have a guy wanting revenge that has never suffered a loss to that team. And then another guy, I'm not sure he knows exactly who Ryan Williams is. And I'm not joking. He's talking about, I'm not going to let him out of the box, and like, he's not going to be able to leave. And I'm just like, does he think that he's the quarterback? Because remember, a lot of times in the football world, it's just numbers. Yeah. It's, we got to cover 2, or you got to make sure you keep 4 in the pocket. I mean, it's just, and Greg said the same thing this morning too. We both thought, like, does he know exactly who that is? And not that it matters either way, but it shows confidence in him. And I said this on my show, I'll say it again. DeMarcus Riddick said he's going undefeated against Alabama. If he's undefeated against Alabama during his career at Auburn, I'll start an NIL fund just for him myself with my own money. So he gets that done. We're going to find a way to take care of him.
Amen to that. I'll buy a mistake. I would love it, no doubt. We will see. It's going to be a 2:30 kickoff there at Bryant-Denny Stadium as Auburn kind of turns the page now. And it's one of those things where I don't think everyone expected maybe Auburn to go in and beat Texas A&M. So you don't worry about, at least I don't worry about, being too high and the shock factor of that and going in. I think if anything, you're excited that there's this type of momentum. And on the other end, if you listen to Kalen DeBoer's press conference and talked about this on the Bama show with Mike Johnson, it was just a different Kalen DeBoer than he was every single Monday for the last 11, 12 weeks. I think he talked earlier this year about consistency in maintaining, he's not a too high energy guy. It's not too low. And for the first time, I thought, okay, he has a little bit of like the Hugh Freeze downer vibes that we had, like a couple weeks ago. And like it's happened over here at Kalen DeBoer, while Hugh Freeze is sounding a little more energized. And you just wonder, is that taking on the mentality of the team, or is that part of the message? I don't know. It's just things that I wonder about just from the optics standpoint. Cole.
Well, there has also been this question that we've asked. We asked it about the Auburn team a couple of weeks ago when it didn't really feel like your real goals were still in sight and there wasn't as much to play for. What would you get? And we've seen this team sort of ramp up since we've asked that question. I had that question about LSU this week. They passed. I had that question about Missouri this week. They passed. So I don't think we're going to find out about Ole Miss this week. And that's a rivalry game, one that's easy to get up for. But it looks like their college football playoff hopes are essentially gone. So Alabama could be in that boat right now. There may be people telling them, hey, a couple things happen. Ball bounces this way. We go win this game. We still could find our way in. Okay, maybe great. It might be hard to make those kids believe that. And when those gigantic goals are stripped away from you, when those things that you've been playing for, that you've had in front of you, are all of a sudden taken, what is your natural reaction? It's probably not very positive. Sure. And it's difficult at that age with everything that you've already been given to find a way to be positive about it moving forward. So I'm very interested in the attitude, the demeanor, the behavior of these teams that have been in it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And in the back of their mind are planning to go play in some of these playoff games, and all of a sudden that's not there. Yeah. That's going to be a difficult place for these coaching staffs. And you can say rivalry game. Well, it is still a little bit different in certain instances. When you've been thinking playoff, SEC championship game, Iron Bowl, I hate saying this, but it's not as big a deal when that's been on the front of your mind. Also, with the way the recruiting landscape has changed, these are not a lot of kids that watched every one of these with their families for 15, 14, 16
Correct.
years. It's just
Yep.
not. So
Yep.
they view it in a little bit of a different way. So I think the demeanor of what these two teams might be heading into this game could be a massive advantage for Auburn.
When you played in the Iron Bowl, what was it like when you walked off the field? And there's no wrong answer here. I just want honest because
I mean, two times it was completely miserable, and two times it was the greatest feeling ever. I was on the field goal team in '97 when Jarrett Holmes kicked that field goal, and it was the most jubilation at that point in my life that I think I had ever felt in a football uniform, in any sports uniform, really. And I was the wingman as a backup center out there on field goal team, but it was incredible to be out there for it. And then 98, we get up at halftime. Sean Alexander goes crazy. 99, we get up at halftime, the last one at Legion Field, maybe the most memorable game I ever played in. And he goes crazy again in the second half. We lose those two games. Go fast forward to 2000, first one in Tuscaloosa in over 100 years. We go win that game. Senior year, it's your last one. You win it on the road. It's 32 degrees and sleet. It was perfect football weather for me. And you not only win that game, but you clinch a trip to the SEC championship game because Arkansas lost that day. That was an amazing day. It's complete jubilation. Like that was one of those days you didn't want to leave the field. You just you want to just walk around and soak it in. I can remember the final snap like it was yesterday. Yeah. Snap the ball, we kneel it. I turned around. I had to fight the football away from Ben Lear because I was keeping that ball. I was like, "This is mine. No." And he wanted it, and I was like, "Nah, dog.
Did you take it?
You're from Hartwell, Georgia. Give me the effing ball. It's mine.
Give me the ball."
I ended up getting the ball. Well, I don't know if I pulled it away or if he gave it to me, but I have the ball still in my possession. So yeah.
Cole won that battle.
But it was I can remember pregame. Tommy Tuberville walked past me and I said, "You got a pregame speech?" And kind of like sly, like he would, being a little bit of a smart aleck. He's like, "Why? No, you got one?" And I said, "You damn right." And he goes, "All right, floor is yours." And so to give that pregame speech to my teammates in that locker room before that game, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say. I'm not going to repeat it, but those are things that you'll take with you the rest of your life. And I'll write them down one day so my kids will have them. But it's losing that game. I can remember 98 being 99, Jordan-Hare Stadium, standing on that sideline and walking down our sideline and getting the freshmen to all come over there and stand next to me and listen to them play Ramajammer in our stadium and say, and sitting there telling us, I want you to know what this feels like. I want you to sit there and listen to it. Because this doesn't need to happen again. Yeah. And it's awful. My opinion towards Alabama has changed a lot. It was, and I try to tell my kids this, like it's a very dangerous game to play to find more joy in someone losing than yourself winning. Yeah. And I did that with Alabama for a long time after I finished school. And a guy named Nick Saban comes to town, and that makes your life really hard for a long time because it doesn't go your way very often. And the last couple of years, being in the seat that I've been, having a different angle on it, having a different lens on it, I think my relationship with Coach Saban the last couple of years of him kind of welcoming me into that facility, having real conversations with him, and getting to know people like Jeff Allen inside that facility, getting to know people that have been there for a long time, getting to know Greg Byrne, and how welcoming those people have been to me. I don't have the same vitriol that I did a long time ago. Do I ever want them to win? No, I don't, specifically when they play Auburn. Do I find the same joy in them losing all the time that I once did? I don't. It's not the same for me like that. It just isn't. Because I have real friends there now. I have real friends there now and real relationship with people now. Like David Ballou is incredible. Their strength coach now. I love going and talking to him and hearing what he has to say. I'm friends with Kalen DeBoer. I was before he got to Alabama. It's hard to root against people you like. It just is. And I don't like doing that. So, but it's when it comes to this game and this day, any Alabama fan that has a little joke or a little pride, it still hurts. And I still don't like it. It still infuriates me. And so, it's those parts of it are never going to go away. My kids reference them as Yucky Alabama in my house. I mean, that's my daughter's 9. She started that when she was 2, and she still does it. And so the other 2 do it too. I sent my son to his room one time because he was saying RT in our house. I'm like, we don't do that here. It doesn't happen in this house. I was like, I know you're being funny and cute, but it's not. And he did it again, and I sent his ass to his room. It's real life.
You balance being the ultimate competitor, a great professional, and a good daddy all really well there. That's a great trifecta, Cole. I'm very proud of you from personal and professional standpoint. So that's amazing. It's Thanksgiving week, so why not just get on the kids a little bit, man? Hopefully, listen, we know for a fact they'll be saying War Eagle all week. I know everyone's fired up after that big win. We appreciate the memories there, Cole. That was fantastic. When you look at this game, and you think about what Peyton Thorne and this offense was able to do, and I think it was like I actually tweeted, "Who is this team playing in Auburn, Alabama right now?" Because when they jumped out to 21-0 lead, you're wondering where had that been. Was it something different schematically? Was it just the magic of Jordan Hare, which sounds so silly, but it's really a real thing. If you've been in that stadium, you played in the stadium, I've covered games in the stadium, man, it's just an energy that otherwise doesn't exist in college athletics.
Well, you heard Nick Saban say it on game day. He's like, that place is haunted, man. I'm telling you. And like there's a story about Coach Saban after the SEC championship game last year. I won't say it, but he and I had a conversation.
That's a tease. That's not fair.
I can't do it. I can't share it. But I have known that he has had those similar thoughts for a long time. And I think it's really cool that he is not only in a position to share it like that, but willing to share it like that, because I can tell you, those are his real feelings. Yeah. Like he really feels that way. And it was cool to hear him say it. So
yeah, he was very, very confident in his words when he made that statement there on game day. And then obviously we saw how it played out, and I'm still looking at a picture of the field being totally just swamped with fans there at the end of the game. When you think about what this offense was able to do successfully there early in the game, Cole, what went well? Was it execution? Was it something schemed differently? Just confidence? Maybe
it was execution, and I think it was a good job of altering some things early on. Auburn actually benefited a little bit by what Texas A&M's plan was, in my opinion. Texas A&M ran more 3-down defensively than they had on regular downs all season. I didn't expect them to come out in that. I wouldn't have. They're an even front because they have real defensive linemen inside and outside on the edges, and why you would waste some of those inside and not have as many on the field at one time doesn't really make sense to me, but that's what they thought they were going to do. And then they moved those defensive ends. So Auburn went to a little bit more of a mid zone, and the way that they blocked it almost became like a little bit of a shuffle sideways, and it worked. The way that they operated it worked, and that got Jarquez Hunter going. And the shot plays weren't just Peyton Thorne making a great throw or Cam Coleman running great routes or Keandre Lambert-Smith beating people down the field. They were off play action. And Jarquez Hunter running the football and that offensive line opening up holes are what allowed the shot plays to come. That offensive line played a really good game against an elite front. Obviously, the receivers helped the quarterback. You and I talked about that early in this season. Yes, Peyton Thorne made some big mistakes, but who's helping him? He's getting help now from his tailback, from his offensive line, from his wide receivers. Those guys are going out. And at times, not every single one, but at times, making him look better than he might actually be. Every quarterback gets it. It's just to what extent do you get it? He needs a little bit more of it. He's protecting the football well. Maybe the best thing he's doing right now, Simone, is he is avoiding catastrophe plays. Mm-hmm. You're going to throw interceptions every now and then, and he's still thrown a couple since he has improved and gotten away from those. But what was the last catastrophe play he was involved in? It's been over a month. So that part of his awareness and his game has really grown, and I think that's helping the team succeed also. And the defense is playing lights out. I don't know why Texas A&M came in and wanted to be some air raid football team, why they thought they were going to let Marcel Reed throw the football around. I didn't think that's the way they could stay in or compete or win that football game. Now, it got them back in it, but how they opened up, I think, is what allowed Auburn to build the lead that they did. I thought that would be a ground and pound game, both teams trying to run the football, probably a short clock. In limited possessions, but A&M want to try to throw it around early. So that will be interesting to see what Alabama's plan is in this game, because I don't think the Auburn defense is going to let you sit there and run it. But A&M's got a great offensive line, good backs, and with a mobile quarterback where I thought they may be able to find some room. Alabama has those things too. Yeah. But the advantage Auburn has is a blueprint defensively of what just worked against a lot of what they do, and a blueprint on offense that can work against their defense that Auburn does some very similar things to as well. Auburn, I think, ran 2 gap scheme runs in this game against A&M. They didn't have to go to it very much. They'll go to a lot of it in this game. That's what A&M had success with. The word influence is something I took away from that game. Oklahoma did an amazing job of influencing Alabama defenders, getting them out of position. using different players to think that they were doing things that they weren't. And then defensively as well, whether it was who's the actual in man on the line of scrimmage, disguising that, having two guys behind the defensive end of one would be, one wouldn't be, walking guys up in the gaps, making them think you were going to blitz, dropping them off. They influenced Alabama in a lot of ways that gave them success. And I imagine Hugh Freeze, DJ Durkin, and company are going to probably try to replicate some of that to some extent.
We'll go piggybacking off of that, Cole. A week ago, we talked a good deal about the college football playoff and what that was going to look like. And I don't know if anyone really expected what this past weekend to look the way that it did on the Plains and also in Norman. And when you look at Alabama's loss, and you just talked about catastrophe plays and Auburn avoiding that, and the other end, Alabama had a few of those there against Oklahoma in their huge loss that probably put them out of the playoffs. What do you think the mentality of this team is right now? I didn't love the energy from Kalen DeBoer in his Monday press conference. I thought it was the first time this year that I thought he sounded a little more defeated than a guy who is just so consistent that you can tell when he's a little high or low because he's just always the same guy. What do you think about where this team's mentality is? They lose their lead guy on defense, and Deontay Lawson's out for the season. They announced that, so a big loss there. He's their, middle linebacker, who's guy with green dot. He's the leader of that side of the ball. What do you think about just kind of where this team is right now? And you think about opt-outs or transfer portal, and is that in the back of this team's mind as they enter this game?
Well, first you look at Deontay Lawson, who I think is an amazing football player. I have a ton of respect for a leader on that team, not just that defense, but now, you go down to basically two inside linebackers that have played a lot of football this year. That's a tough place to be in this league. I imagine it'll be attacked. Now, Jefferson has been the substitute linebacker, and he can absolutely fly, but they don't have a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps after him. They lost Quindarius Robinson a couple of weeks ago, so you're thin at edge also. Jaheim Otis was going to be a part of this defense. He leaves the team, is going to hit the portal a little bit earlier in the season, so they're thin on that side of the ball. You've lost guys in the secondary, Keon Sabb, who's out for the year, so they're not a ton of veterans that have a lot of experience in this game that are going to be playing in this specific Iron Bowl. I think Hugh Freeze is going to try to take advantage of that. I think because of maybe where they are, new people being in new positions, maybe lacking a little bit of confidence, you're going to try to steal their eyes. You're going to try to get them going one way, hit them the other way. But it's going to come down to leadership first and foremost. And I think that some people have questioned that on this team this year. I'm not going to take things that I see on television and say that they don't have leaders or guys aren't leaders. I don't really know. But it goes back to what we first started talking about in this show is that where are these teams mentally and emotionally right now? I find it hard to believe they're in a great spot just because you had been discussed in the SEC championship game, in the college football playoff. Your quarterback was discussed as the Heisman winner at certain points in this season. Yep. You had 2 or 3 big games in a row and people were saying, take it off the shelf, man, this thing's done. Yep. And now you look at the game that he's going to be coming off against now, but kids are resilient. Kids forget things quickly. It's just a matter of how fast can that coaching staff help them turn the page. Yep. Maybe the Thanksgiving holiday will help. Maybe the fact that it's the Iron Bowl will help. But I actually think it makes this game more interesting. And I think it makes it's not going to make it bigger in scope as far as what's on the line, but I think the individual game becomes bigger because now there's not really a championship game that you're playing for the conference title. You're probably not going to college football playoff. This is the one. This is the one that these 2 seasons will be remembered for. And right. So I think it ups the ante on this game a little bit more.
Yeah, that's so true. And you think about Auburn's opportunity. I think that when we said the words bowl eligibility or bowl berth last week, we kind of said it because you kind of had to say it because they had 4 wins and they had 2 games left. And now we're sitting here going, well, dang, now we're saying it and it might actually mean something. Is that, and it seems different in that locker room a little bit too, as we already alluded to with the talk of just how these guys sound right now. And you got to imagine they're going to head over there in Tuscaloosa and be a confident bunch right now.
I don't think there's any doubt. And you look at how they celebrated that win, I think it shows you that something like a bowl berth, like becoming eligible to go to a bowl, could actually be a big deal for these guys.
It's huge.
Because you don't get to win 5 in a season with 1 game left and celebrate a win like that very often. You just don't.
That's true.
But when those kind of victories are that big, because a lot of people are going to tell you that bowl games don't matter. I disagree with that with every fiber in my body. I think every game matters, and I think a chance to celebrate your season and play another game with your teammates and just put the uniform on because there's just a limited amount of times you're going to be able to do it. Bowl games mean a lot to a lot of
Love that.
people.
Yeah.
Just because there's one guy on your team that's going to go make a lot of money in the NFL and it doesn't mean anything to him, doesn't mean that there's not 84 other guys that it means an absolute
So
ton
true.
to. So I think that could be something that this team's looking at as a really big deal. And maybe you find somewhere in the season when it looks like everything's gone that if we can just get to that, then we'll leave on a positive note and we're handing something over in a positive manner to the guys that are going to take over after we're
Yeah.
gone. It's something that we were so proud of my senior year is we were picked to finish last in the West. We go to the SEC championship game. Florida got us for the second time that year, but we went to the Citrus Bowl and lost to Michigan. But like Tuberville kept slamming the table with, you guys have set us up. Like you guys have boosted positive energy into this program. People
Yeah.
want to be a part of this. Like, you went and beat Alabama on the road. You beat Georgia at home. Like you're leaving a positive legacy to what's going to be next. And that could be a real part for what these guys are playing for, playing about, and wanting to do that could be enough to motivate them to go win this game.
I love that, Cole. Great insight and so true for this program. I think you could really feel that Saturday as they wrapped up the season there at Jordan-Hare Stadium for the seniors. No question about that. It'll be a 2:30 kickoff as Auburn heads to Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, looking to put an even bigger spoiler on Alabama's season at this point, possibly hand the Tide their fourth loss, which I don't think really anybody thought that, the Kalen DeBoer's first season, that there would be 4 regular season losses for the Tide. Can Auburn be the ones to do it? I'm sure they would love to, no question about it. Let's give predictions quick before we let you go. I'm going to just go ahead and put mine out there. I've already done it on a couple platforms. I like Auburn 27-24 in this game. I think that momentum is such a huge thing in college sports. I've talked about it on this show before. I think that there's just a part of palms up and hopelessness to an extent for Alabama, and you wonder, can you get past that? And if it starts to creep in where Auburn strings a few plays together like they did against Texas A&M a little bit, will you start to see guys give up, some there, late in the second quarter or early in the second half? Who knows? But I like Auburn in this game right now, Cole, even though they're the heavy favorite according to Vegas at 11 points.
You remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the Vanderbilt game, and I told you that early fourth, and I had Vanderbilt and LSU this week, and I asked Clark Lee about that, and he just kind of smiled, and he said, absolutely. He said, we sold all week to our guys. Give me a one-score game, early, mid, fourth quarter, and we're good. We got them right where we want them. And that the Auburn confidence would be taking a nosedive and the Vanderbilt confidence would skyrocket. I think this is a different team now. And I think if you can go in there and weather the storm, the first 2, 3, 4 drives, maybe the first quarter, get to the middle of the second quarter and be in a competitive game at that point, don't let the first kickoff go back for a touchdown. Don't let Milroe break an 85-yard run in the first drive. Like if you avoid that backbreaker in the first 18, 20 minutes of this game, then I think Auburn will be just fine. I think Auburn wins the game. I think that I have too many questions about where this Alabama team is emotionally right now and mentally right now. Being at home is going to be big, but this team's been on the road. They understand what these environments are like. Sometimes I think playing in this kind of a game at home works against you because it mounts the pressure a little bit. And I think Auburn has some things from a schematic standpoint that have been proven to be a problem for Alabama this year. Misdirection has been a massive problem all year. Hugh Freeze and Auburn and Jake Thornton, they can put together misdirection plays just like they did with the counter last year. Last year, they ran their counter a different way than Bama had ever seen. They ran it into the boundary a little bit more than normal, and they didn't know how to react to it. Now, they couldn't finish that game, and Alabama made big plays down the stretch, but I think from a weaponry standpoint, this is a little bit of a different Alabama football team. It's going to be a big game for the secondary. You have to tackle receivers when they catch the football. Catch and run has been big for this team. They've been able to get on top of defenses. Can't let that happen. But I also think there's some weaknesses in this offensive line that certain individuals on this Auburn defense can exploit. And keep in mind, too, we've talked about DJ Durkin lining up different people in different places. The one thing that would concern me is if Alabama says we are going to sell out to playing bully ball, will the Auburn defense be able to withstand that? And that means Robbie Utes, CJ Dupree, 12, 13 personnel, downhill, right at you, add a blocker and go quarterback run north and south. And Jalen Milroe decides to be a north-south runner instead of making 90-degree turns to the sideline when there's more yards on the field. That could be a problem for Auburn's defense. I think they can hold up some, But 4 quarters of it, if they at times are not moving the football, I think that could be problematic late. And Peyton Thorne's just got to be smart, make good decisions, don't turn it over, don't throw it to him, don't have the back-breaking plays, avoid those catastrophe plays. They're going to sell out against Jarquez Hunter. Kane Womack's going to try to take 27 out of the game. And when he does, Peyton Thorne will have opportunities down the field. And I think the Auburn receivers are better than the Alabama DBs. I do. People told me I was done before the season because I said Auburn had a better backfield. Well, go look at the numbers and tell me which one you would take right now.
You're right.
I said before the season that I thought Auburn's receiving core had a chance to be better than Alabama's. In the last 3 weeks, which one would you take? So some of those things have to happen early if it's going to take place. And you probably got to be clean in special teams. But I'll go 34-31 Auburn wins.
All right. We'll see. I like it. It's going to be a 2:30 kickoff. Everything on the line when it comes to the bragging rights, the tradition, the Iron Bowl. It's the biggest game of the year. And Thanksgiving week. I know we've talked about food. And I know you're going to be looking forward to your plate there on Thursday, Cole. But hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope your kid doesn't say RT much and he doesn't get to sit to his room or anything. Be dad of the year.
He ain't making that mistake again.
Not this week, he isn't. All right, yes, sir. Well, looking forward to it, man. And hopefully we'll join you again here on Head to Head talking Auburn football if the Tigers can pull it off and clinch a bowl berth. We will see, guys. It'll be a 2:30 kickoff there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. For Cole Cubelic, I'm Simone Eli. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.